Coming soon from Sorgatron Media.
That, but it's got
right
freaking Ninja Turtles, right?
Thing.
Exactly.
Then you have...
And I thought it was really cool. What did you think of the Suicide Squad, Mike? Mike? All right, weak. And,
that thing. You know the thing, Sorg.
Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, shit, now!
We'll fix it in post.
Find yourself in the Beachview area of Pittsburgh? Check out the official pizza of this show, Slice on Broadway, sharing an abnormal obsession with pizza we can relate to. Check them out at sliceonbroadway.com and tell them this show sent you. Want to have your business or podcast featured on the show? Contact us at info@sorgatronmedia.com. Subject line, advertising.
Hungry, but I ain't starving yet. Chain for the pain, cocktail bar set. Never said I was a gangster or thug, but I'm an animal. Beating for the taste of the blood.
Hey guys, welcome in. It's the Indy Mayhem Show. I'm Sorgatron at Sorgatron on Twitter here in Pittsburgh, PA. It's episode 13. This is a show where we talk indie wrestling stuff we dig and try to have conversations with some of the people we come across on our travels out here. Of course, I with Sorgatron Media, doing a little bit of video production with some local indies here in the Pittsburgh area, and making that connection across the country is my buddy Eamon down in San Antonio, Texas. Why do you look more tired when we're doing the show earlier?
I don't know why.
What are you doing, man?
Sort of Eamon Payne's secret. I just got up from a nap. But no, I am super well rested now, and I'm super excited to be talking indie wrestling. And I know we have a very special guest on tonight, so I'm very excited about the conversation. So
yes, of course, Eamon, a commentator down at Inspire Pro Wrestling, a great new company, and we talked with the promoter last week. So if you want to check that out on episode 12. So our guest this week, somebody I've gotten to know pretty closely over the last year, telling his story with a new documentary coming out this week. It's actually coming out officially Friday. It's called Finding Zach Gowen, and here is the name on the title, Zach Gowen. How you doing, sir?
You found him.
I found him. We
we did it.
We did it. And now we don't need a documentary. What's that?
Yeah, you found me in my closet, or as I like to call it, my home studio. But when you're a parent and you put your child down to bed at a very strict 9 o'clock bedtime, sometimes you take drastic measures to make things happen, and here we are, gentlemen, and I'm happy to be here with you guys. And Sorgatron, thanks for all of your help in making that documentary. I watched the completed piece today, and I gotta tell you, it's an amazing piece.
Awesome.
You did an excellent job.
Awesome, thank you. Well, I more want to talk about the subject. It was a lot of fun to come out there last summer and hang with you, kind of see how you roll for a weekend, and get your story from you and a lot of your friends out there. A lot of guys people know about. We talked to Jimmy Jacobs, Truth Martini, who of course trained you in your first match with Rhino, Gregory Irons, stuff like that. So tell me just kind of a brief, why should people be interested in the documentary? What is so important about your story that this came about?
Well, here's the thing. I think that my sole existence, the whole purpose of my existence is to be of maximum service to God and to the people around me. And I have a unique ability to be of service through telling my story. And I tell my story through various platforms, one of them being in a professional wrestling ring, another being on stage at high schools and middle schools and sharing my story with kids. And I do various podcasts, various work in the recovery community as an active member of a person in drug and alcohol recovery. So this is why I think I'm here, and the goal being that maybe somebody sees my story and a seed of inspiration is planted, and maybe somebody through my trials and tribulations, my ups and downs, maybe somebody turns their life around, and that's the reason why I think that I'm here.
Mm-hmm. And definitely, and it's a pretty amazing story because you've been through a lot. Of course, everybody's heard from when you were in WWE. Was F at the time? I can't recall. And hearing about what happened, losing your leg to cancer, being the world's only. I think you're still the world's only one-legged wrestler, and so much has happened. Again, it's been such a. I've noticed like the entire story is such a roller coaster, and a lot of people maybe don't know much about your story that maybe haven't seen you on Prime Wrestling up in Ohio or up in the Detroit area or wherever you've been traveling across the country. So can you give us just a brief what happened to you since people last saw you on national TV?
Well, it's pretty amazing, man, and it makes me grateful that I'm actually still alive talking to you guys. But I got fired from WWE 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And when that happened, and I just turned 31. When that happened, I lost my identity. And I searched for the answer through various means, right? Drugs, alcohol, women. And I lived a very crazy life, filled with a lot of pain and unhappiness. And this goes back to unresolved stuff from my childhood, losing my leg to cancer at 8 years old, my dad being an alcoholic, being abusive, taking off when I was 4, never seeing him until that one time when I was 19 and he showed up at a public autograph signing. So there was a lot going on, and I was in so much pain. And a lot of people go through what I went through, and they don't make it out to the other side. So that makes me incredibly grateful to be here, of sound mind and body, and to be spiritually connected, and to be chatting with you gentlemen, and more so than that, to be able to share my story in the hopes that it helps somebody who watches it.
And it seems to go along with the general trend that's happening in pro wrestling. Of course, I think well documented these days. The story of Jake Roberts and Scott Hall. Again, other guys have dealt with addiction, and I think for a lot of people, I mean, seeing Jake definitely around shows around here that I've worked, and just hearing all the stories, you're just like, would not have been surprised if those guys disappeared. And seeing even what DDP's been doing with that, and now those guys are even in the Hall of Fame. So I think this is definitely the right time to tell this kind of story.
I think what we're having now is the start of a new era. With a lot of these guys, because for the past 10, 15 years, guys have been dropping like flies.
Yeah.
They've been dying left and right due to drugs and alcohol and a lifestyle that's not conducive to any kind of spiritual connection. And so now guys are recovering, and we have the courage to share our stories, because this is how we keep our story going on. This is how we keep our sobriety and our happiness and our serenity, by sharing our stories and hopefully by helping other people. And I think that the shame and the stigma of addiction just in society in general is leaving, and it's not a matter of a lack of willpower, or it's not a moral issue, because it's certainly not a willpower in my case, because I happen to be the first one in the history of the world to be a one-legged professional wrestler. And if I have the willpower to do that, then I should have the willpower to stop using drugs and drinking alcohol. But the fact is I don't, because I suffer from a spiritual malady, and the only solution is a spiritual one. And part of that solution is me sharing my story with you guys.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and it seems, and another fantastic thing I've seen from helping a little bit and telling the story, is and this has always been an interesting thing, is of course Colt Cabana has been doing his thing with Art of Wrestling, and it's very interesting to see people that have had that WWE career and find something after. Because a lot of times, like especially for you, I know one of the conversations with you is like your goal was to go to WWE, and after 9 months that happened. You're with Piper, you're with Hogan, and of course this compounded on your problems in the long run. But it seems like you're finding the next thing for you.
That's huge, because I thought my life was over after I got released from WWE, because that's how I saw myself. I saw myself as this WWE superstar, quote unquote. And so when I see guys like I get so excited and inspired when I see guys do things outside of that bubble, of that wrestling bubble. With Victoria opening a restaurant in Chicago, with Mick Foley launching a very successful stand-up comedy career.
He's coming
with
to Pittsburgh.
Cabana, who had 2 months on television, now has the one of the most listened to podcasts out there, with his merchandise, and just seeing him do it by himself with that punk rock do it yourself attitude, that gives me hope, and that inspires me, and I want to see more of it, because I don't want wrestlers who have been released from WWE to go through what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to know that there are options out there, and we are some of the most talented performers, and we're some of the most gifted athletes out there, and we can apply that to other projects, and ultimately we can make a living, and be of service to other people, which is an astounding thing.
We of course we got a live chat room here, Zach, and we're having some questions. First of all, our friend Alex out in California says he'll buy 20 copies. No, make that 30, by the way. But we do have a question from Bobby F. J. Town, who joins us on the Wrestling Mayhem Show often. He says, "What was your favorite opponents in WWE and the Independents?"
My favorite opponent in WWE, I think, was the Big Show.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what? My favorite that was my favorite match. I only wrestled the Big Show one time, and that was such a huge moment and such a career and life defining moment for me. That's when I realized that WWE was onto something with me and my story, and how much of an impact I could have. But I wrestled Matt Hardy the most out of everybody in WWE, and I developed a nice relationship with him. And he taught me a lot as far as the in-ring stuff goes. And he really, really helped me out tremendously. My favorite opponent on the Indies is Jimmy Jacobs. I think he's a guy that gets it, that can get the best out of anybody he's in the ring with. And we just we happen to have a certain chemistry, and we have certain philosophies on wrestling, and we just come together. And every time that we're in the same ring together, magic seems to happen. And he's the guy I'm most comfortable with in the ring on the Indies.
We have a confession from the chat room. Alex says that he nearly cried when Brock F5'd you in front of your mom.
Yeah, he nearly cried. I most definitely cried. It didn't feel good getting F5'd twice into the ring post and power bombed twice, and he swung a chair like a baseball bat, upside my head. And this was 2003 WWE, man. Now the guys put their hands up because they're.
We've noticed that watching WWE network, I know Eamon here, he's kind of catching up with some Attitude Era and realizing how unbelievably violent it was back then. Yeah. And you were right in the tail end of that, right?
Yeah, totally. There's tons of blood, and there was no talk of concussions or anything like that. I suffered a concussion in my last appearance on WWE, and they sent me home the next day. I saw a doctor, but they didn't really follow up with me or try to figure out, what the issue was. But now, thanks to guys like Chris Nowinski and Nowinski, and I think that's his name, right? Yeah. And the new research coming out and the new technological advances, we realize that how serious brain injuries are, and hopefully, we're saving guys' life.
And it sounds like it definitely sounds like they're and hopefully having a longer career for a lot of these guys too. That don't lead to these kinds of problems. Yeah,
it's about having a longer career, and it's about having a longer quality of life.
Yeah.
As you get older, and not deteriorating into dementia and Alzheimer's, and the worst case being Chris Benoit. Hopefully, we'll never have to see an incident like that ever again. And when they say when they did the autopsy on his brain, he had the brain of a 70-year-old or something like that, and of course they can't help. That didn't help the situation. And we want to try to avoid that. You know, we want to have longer careers, but we also want to have longer quality lives.
I want to talk about getting back to indies. My first interaction with you was actually up with Prime Wrestling, and I've always thought this was an interesting thing when it was first starting. But you actually had a run against Gregory Iron. Now, Gregory Iron is somebody that you've actually teamed with for a bit, and actually, very publicly says that you were an inspiration for him.
Yeah, and Greg, and for those that don't know, Greg is the only wrestler in the world that suffers from cerebral palsy. And at 16 years old, he saw me on WWE TV, and he was inspired to do something with his life and to become a professional wrestler. Because at the time he was depressed, he was out of shape, he was kind of marinating in self-pity. As an adolescent with a physical disability, which isn't too uncommon. But when he saw me on TV, he decided that he could become a professional wrestler, and that was 10 years ago. And when I heard his story, I knew that we would have to do something together. And there's me just punching him in the gut. There you go, kid. And I knew that we would have to do something together, but it wasn't until we got together and I saw him in the ring, and I realized how talented he was, and I realized how much we gelled in the ring and how much our personalities kind of gelled together. And I realized what an incredible piece of talent he is, and how much of an asset he could be to my career, and how much of an asset I could be to his career. So it's been a match made in heaven. Ever since that, our buddy Joe Dombrowski brought us together in Prime Wrestling.
Awesome.
And you mentioned in the beginning about how you're really enjoying sort of getting to share your story and hopefully inspire people with various public speaking stuff. Do you think through your time with Greg, teaming and also competing against him, and then sort of your work on the indies, are you getting to see that of getting to meet people and see people and hopefully share your story and in a sense be an inspiration to them?
Absolutely, Eamon. And that was talking with Greg and hearing it. I heard him on a podcast tell the story about him watching me, and that was for some reason, it only took me 8 years into my career, but and the reason why is I was so buried in my self-pity and selfishness that I couldn't see how much of an impact I could have on people. And Greg broke through that ice, and his story touched my soul the same way that my wrestling touched his soul. And that was kind of the genesis of me realizing that my story could not only affect wrestling fans but other people as well. And I'm reaching more people now through speaking than I am wrestling, simply because wrestling is so limited in its fan base, and it's so there's not much of a huge audience for me on an independent
not as widespread.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's not as mainstream as we would hope it would be. But through speaking and talking to these kids one-on-one, sharing my story, sharing my pain, sharing my victories with them, what I'm finding is these kids are being absolutely inspired, and they're pumped up and they're excited, and that in turn gets me excited about life. And when that happens, man, it's just like anything else. It just builds momentum, and that's what my life is now. It's just a positive momentum, like snowball rolling down a hill, man. And I'm just kind of hanging on for the ride, trying to do my part.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, I know you got to get running. So tell us what's next. What do you want to plug? Of course, finding Zach Gowen is going to be available via joedabrowski.com, the upcoming zachgowen.com, and I know we're going to have the digitals over at sorgatronmedia.com if anybody wants to get their hands on it. And of course, DVDs are going to be available at WrestleCon this weekend out there, WrestleMania weekend in New Orleans. Look for Joe Dabrowski. I don't know. I didn't know that you were going out there too, or.
I will not be. I'll actually be in Wisconsin.
Okay.
April 5th. I'll be wrestling out there. So if you're in Wisconsin, come see me this Saturday, April 5th. And beyond that, Joe's going to be in New Orleans at WrestleCon. I have dates coming up in Illinois, Toronto, Detroit, back to Wisconsin. I have Minnesota, Detroit, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts. I have tons of dates coming up. I'm going to have ZachGowen.com up soon. But for right now, in the interim, find me on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll keep you guys posted and updated. But I just wanted to say thank you for having me on, guys, and thank you for the support from the fans that happen to be listening or watching me from my illustrious closet here. I put up a poster to make it look a little more professional. I don't know if that helped or not, but but this is excellent, man. And it's at the end of the day, we're all human beings. Life is hard for me. Life can be hard for you, and I think we should help each other rather than tear each other down. And you guys are doing the work, and I'm trying to do as well.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure working with you. We're going to go, for you guys watching or listening, we're going to be playing the trailer for that coming out again this Friday. It's coming out, and we'll be right back with a little bit of discussion here with me and Eamon. And we'll be right back.
I'm going to talk about some things that I still find painful. See, it's kind of difficult for me to talk about because my childhood necessarily wasn't the best childhood. I was in my own prison. I broke my leg in 3 or 4 places.
He was diagnosed in October as having osteogenic sarcoma. We didn't know what that surgery would mean.
I woke up as an 8-year-old missing his leg. It was definitely fate, I believe, that led me to the House of Truth Wrestling Academy. But in my heart, I knew that this is exactly what I was born to do. I finally found a place that accepted me. It was the most euphoric feeling I've ever had in my life.
And here's where I finally let him know. I go, listen, the WWE is going to call you.
I was completely overwhelmed.
This guy has a definite future in his business.
But I get to be in a Piper's Pit. I get to go to the ring with Hulk Hogan, wrestling the Big Show, working with Brock Lesnar, to be in the ring with Vince. Like, this is totally insane to me.
9 months before that, he was just a fan. 9 months later, he's in the ring with Hulk Hogan.
You could see this attitude change.
He definitely got an ego.
I rebelled and I acted out.
People didn't want to be put in matches with him.
Zach had so much heat. It looked like he was getting the living hell beat out of him.
And that it was better that he'd leave or they're going to end up killing him.
It definitely changed Zach. He got released.
The drugs and alcohol become my answer to all of that.
It just started going way downhill after that.
Zach's drug use was out of hand.
I feared for Zach's life many times.
I used to have dreams that he would die.
It was the closest I've seen to a human being OD.
The guy has a gun to my head.
He went through a dark time in his life, and sometimes people need to do that to learn how to live.
He's been through hell and back. That's the important part. He's back.
Zach's legacy can be anything he wants it to be.
It's a journey unlike anybody's story I've ever heard in my life. And I would want people to know the entire Zach Gowen story, and then judge Zach.
All right, again, that trailer, finding Zach Gowen, available over on Sorgatron Media for the digital, and for JoeDabrowski.com, ZachGowen.com, coming very, very soon. So our discussion this week, of course, Eamon, you have a very awesome opportunity. I had a very similar one last year.
It's an exciting week for independent wrestling.
It is, but it's exciting for mainstream wrestling as well, WrestleMania weekend. But of course, what comes with that is a ton of independent wrestling. I was having a conversation actually last night with Dabrowski about how, oh my God, I couldn't believe how many shows there were around New York. But of course, that is a wrestling area, so it's a hotbed. So everybody came from town. Everybody in town ran a show. It got so saturated. I know Extreme Rising canceled like most of their shows for the weekend, if not all. Everywhere in New Jersey. Ridiculous. Now you are going to go experience some of this in New Orleans.
For my first ever WrestleMania weekend.
So forget about WrestleMania. We know you're into the indie wrestling. You know you're into the non-WrestleMania stuff that happens to be there.
I'm into everything wrestling. I used to be known as the Wrestle fan, so that applies to all the wrestles. It's great. But no, I'm super pumped. I'm going to a lot of stuff this coming weekend, and it's going to be crazy. I'm excited to see how the vibe is, I guess you could say, for that weekend. And I'm going to mostly indie stuff, pretty much all indie stuff besides WrestleMania. I'm not hitting up Access or really anything like that, or both because it's super expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. I was looking at some of those prices. I saw like I think it was, I forget if he was in the $100 or $175 range for Bruno Sammartino, and I'm like, I can go to Bloomfield Days and probably run into him and get an autograph for $10, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's just like weird thing. I know as an aside, but Hulk Hogan not sold out when I looked last night.
Really?
The only one not sold out was Hulk Hogan. That's weird. Really weird. And there was other people at that top price level that were completely like Bruno and stuff. It was kind of curious. But so what are you looking at? What's going on that weekend for you? What are you eyeing up?
It's going
to be partly a what's coming up / what Eamon is going to experience kind of conversation.
We'll probably have a long discussion next week too about my thoughts on it. But I'm going to there's a lot of indie events this weekend. Friday, which is the first day of my Mania weekend, I'm going to be at Ring of Honor for their Super Card of Honor event, which actually looks really, really good. The main event being Adam Cole defending against Jay Briscoe, the sort of, I guess, capper to their big feud in a ladder war. So that should be super, super fun and super, super crazy. Also, Kevin Steen's taking on Mike Bennett, where the winner gets to challenge the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, currently Kazuchika Okada, at War of the Worlds, and that's going to be really cool. Also, I was excited to see this match. The card was sort of still developing. There's going to be a three-way tag where the winner will receive a tag title shot down the line with Red Dragon, which is Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, Forever Hooligans, which is the former New Japan Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, Rocky Romero and Alex Kozlov, and the third team of Hanson, who won Ring of Honor's Top Prospect tournament, and the, I guess, runner-up, you could say, in that tournament, Ray Rowe. So it's going to be super cool to see Ray Rowe competing in Ring of Honor. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff. I think that should be a very interesting event. They're also doing a TV taping the next night, but I actually won't be making the TV taping. But it looks like a great card, and I'm excited. There should be some real fun stuff there. And that's Friday in New Orleans. Right after that Ring of Honor show, like literally right after, if you want to find something to do after watching like 3 hours of pro wrestling, you should drive like 15 minutes and go see the premiere of a little movie called Meet Me There that we talked about with Brandon Stroud and Lex Lybrand. That's my buddy from Inspired Pro Wrestling, Brandon Stroud, with Leather editor-in-chief and talk about town in the wrestling world. New York Times contributor Brandon Stroud.
Yeah, I saw that this week. Good for him. Holy crap.
No, he's big timing now. He's big timing us.
He's never coming on this show again.
Yes. But no, he's premiering this is the official premiere of his new movie Meet Me There, starring WWE star Dustin Rhodes. and it's got a lot of cool people in it. There's tons of indie wrestlers in it, and it's also directed and produced by Lex Lybrand, who we had on the Indy Mayhem Show before, who also does work for Inspire Pro with our production in that. Looks like a really great movie. There's a lot of fun stuff. I know another friend of the Indy Mayhem Show, Kelly Kyle, makes a couple appearances, so look out for that. But this looks really fun, and Brandon's been working on this for so long, and I've gotten to see a lot of the process to it, and this is going to be really, really cool. And yeah, Dustin Rhodes will actually be there. Obviously, star of the movie, as well as possibly a couple other people. I'll just put that out there.
Purely speculation at this point, though.
Purely speculation.
But it's WrestleMania weekend. Everybody is there. Like everybody who's anybody is there in the wrestling community. Indies, WWE, people even affiliated with WWE scenes. And you never know what's going to happen, who's going to pop up where. I know that was definitely an interesting experience when I went to New York, as far as that goes.
But yeah, that's going to be super, super fun. And that's what I'm doing on Friday. Then Saturday, I'm going to my first ever Shimmer wrestling event, Shimmer Volume 62, which should be super fun. I've never been to a Shimmer show, but the lineup looks really good. It's a limited lineup they've announced so far, but there's sure to be more names to be announced. They've only announced one match, but it's going to be a really good one, I think. Cheerleader Melissa defending the Shimmer Championship against Lufisto in a 2 out of 3 falls match with a 90-minute time limit. Which should be insane. There's a lot of great talent. Talents from Japan are coming over. I know there's a couple talents from England that will be there. Also making her debut for Shimmer on that show will be Texas talent Barbie Hayden, which I'm super excited about. So there's a lot of Texas representation all around in New Orleans this weekend. So I'm super excited for that. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff, and I'm interested to see. This really is not just my first Shimmer event, but my first ever, I think, full women's wrestling event. I've been to some women predominant shows, but never one that's been all women's wrestling. So this should be interesting, and I'm excited to see how that goes. And then immediately after that, I will be going to the Saturday evening session for WrestleCon. And that should be fun. I'm assuming there's going to be some signings and stuff like that. But there's also an event that's going to be held at that session on 8 o'clock, or at 8 o'clock, I should say, with a lot of names. I believe one of the matches I saw was Doug Gilbert against Sid Vicious. So wow. That's going to be kind of crazy.
What?
Yeah. That should be fun. Jeff Jarrett against Colt Cabana, I believe. One I'm super excited about, Kevin Steen against former ECW champion Masato Tanaka. That should be killer. I know Chris Hero's on that card, Michael Elgin, tons of legendary names, I guess you could say. And there's going to be a lot of stuff, I believe and a lot of the people just at WrestleCon.
Yeah.
And that should be super fun. I think I don't know if it's scheduled for the actual event, but I know they've announced like Sting and Kurt Angle.
So is this is like a non-affiliated? This is just like WrestleCon is doing a wrestling show, like specifically.
Basically, yeah.
Because I know last year it was like Chikara and Shimmer and ROH and maybe CZW was there.
If I'm not mistaken, I think it's an issue with. I think it's difficult to sort of book wrestling in New Orleans because of some commission or something like that. So I think what WrestleCon tried to do was it's basically a show featuring tons of promotions.
Okay.
So there's representation, I believe, from PWG. And I did
hear there might have been a falling out as far as that goes too, where a lot of these promotions said, "Yeah, we're not going to do this anymore" or something.
Yeah,
there's some issue going on there. It could be around that. It could be.
And I know Shimmer.
Shimmer stuff
here
it is
here. WrestleCon.
Right. Okay. So PWG, $5 Wrestling, ROH, CZW, and Wildcat are being featured according to this. More info. Let's see what we got here.
And I know Shimmer was a part of WrestleCon last year. Now they're running based off of, I believe it's the WWN Live Experience.
Yeah.
Which is doing that and Dragon Gate USA and Evolve. And a couple others. So
that makes sense. We got this interesting split amongst the top companies, indie companies like that. And isn't this an interesting time because we do have guys have really bumped up. Like you got Gabe stuff with Dragon Gate involved, and Shimmer and Beyond are now like. Is it Shimmer? No, I'm sorry. WSU is with Beyond
WSU
Wrestling. And then you got Shimmer doing it, which is really a Ring of Honor thing, actually.
Well,
right?
I believe Shimmer is a bit. Since Shine Wrestling is like the sub promotion of Shimmer, and Shine's done through WWN Live, which is
so they're connecting up
the same one that does Dragon Gate and all that.
So I mean, there's this interesting like I can't think of a time that the indies were this prevalent, you know, and very, very, very accessible, especially, you know, thanks to internet and everything. Like it feels like those top, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 companies or conglomerate companies seem to be as accessible as ECW was in its time. As you know, when ECW, I mean, we've been watching those old ECW hardcore TVs on the network. It was like, this is an indie show, guys, right? I mean, like it's just an indie show that got lucky, I think.
I remember when like someone was discussing like the whole like when ECW was transitioning to pay-per-view, and it was just an idea of like we needing to expand and get in front of more people. And that's sort of the concept. And now with the internet and with everything going on with indie wrestling, you can see anything really. Like, but I think the whole idea of having all these indies come for like one weekend in one area, I think is super cool, because as much as there are so many amazing promotions, they're scattered everywhere. Like Ring of Honor's based out of, and Ring of Honor travels a lot, but they're based out of mainly Pennsylvania. Shimmer's in Chicago. I know Dragon Gate travels a bit. Beyond Wrestling, you can really only see them if you're in like New England. You know, there's you know, but sort of having all these people configure in one area, and in New Orleans really, which, you know, I know NWA Wildcats there, which is a great promotion, but they don't necessarily have like top promotions.
That's
there.
The thing. It is not. It doesn't seem like New Orleans would be a hot. I don't hear much about New Orleans wrestling. You know.
Yeah.
So.
It's there. It's just not as predominant. But to have Ring of Honor, Dragon Gate, Evolve, Shimmer, all these companies there, I think that's going to be. I think it's great to get more eyes on the product. And I mean, the people will flock to it if you want to. And I know, you know, WrestleMania was in New Jersey last year, and New Jersey is a bit more of a hotbed. Yeah. But I mean, look at those WrestleCon shows where Chikara sold out like 1,000 seats. Like that's crazy for an indie show.
Oh yeah.
And it's just that, you know, there's so many people in there.
I'm seeing
there's
good
so many
indies
people in that area looking for wrestling.
I'm seeing good quality indies not clearing 100 sometimes, man, and it's scary. It's scary. We got some comments for you from Alex representing California. We're going to bring together at least another time zone in here. He says he hopes that you're going to go see $5 wrestling live.
Possibly. I know WrestleCon's representing $5.
Yeah, so you'll see at least that representation of it.
Also, I won't be able to make a show. One of the WWN live shows is Kaiju Big Battel. Kaiju Big Battel will be represented. So,
like, is it just being represented, or is it an entire Kaiju show?
No, it's an actual show. It's part of the WWN live.
That's something different. It was really weird when they just dropped that right in the middle of Pro Wrestling Day.
I also find like it's super cool for me that to see. I think definitely because it's in New Orleans and it's a bit closer to where I am. There is tons of Texas representation this weekend.
Oh yeah, that's not too far from you guys.
See. Yeah. You have ACH, Ray Rowe, Athena, Barbie Hayden, Mike Dell is defending his belt.
Hey! I want to point out Ray Rowe's on loan from Cleveland. Okay.
Hey, he's ours now.
He's ours now.
We own him now.
We own him. Oh, that's how they still roll in Texas, huh?
Oh yeah. Ricky Starks, who we've talked before, is going to be wrestling that weekend. Like there's tons of really good guys that are working, and you get to see a lot of guys you wouldn't get. I would never get to see. And I'm super excited.
That's awesome.
I'm really pumped
and that's a great thing. Is you go for the WrestleMania experience, but if you're like a general wrestling fan, you have the opportunity. You know, I mean, as for plenty of people, like for me, like next time I go to WrestleMania, I want to do the full experience, much like you're doing, and hit a bunch of these different shows. I mean, I did under the guise of last year of, having a table at Syndicate and having a table at WrestleCon, but just, being as fan and go to experience that side of it, go to Fan Access once, just to see what that's like, go to the Hall of Fame, fun stuff like that, I think that would be a blast. So, and Alex makes a good point. Chikara, of course, is building for their season 14 stuff up in May. So I can imagine
they won't be represented.
Not getting involved in that. That makes sense. So.
Yeah, and I'm it's but I'm super pumped. I think this is it's just cool to see so many people flock to indie wrestling shows, because as much as WrestleMania is amazing, and I'm going to be super happy because this will be my first WrestleMania I ever go to, and I this is the indie show, but I really think it's going to be a great WrestleMania based off of how the card's shaping up. But people don't necessarily go to WrestleMania for the wrestling, and WrestleMania is not necessarily
so weird.
I know.
Right? I know.
But the wrestling's not the focus necessarily. It's the spectacle. But it's cool to have these indie shows popping up all around, so you get a full weekend of just amazing wrestling.
And you can pick. It's like a buffet, and you can pick whatever you want. That's fantastic. So Alex is asking, he's saying, he's hoping Kaiju Big Battel gets out there. Same with Chikara. Man, Kaiju was that close. I don't think people realize how close Kaiju was of getting out there. I had a chance to talk with those guys. What was that, National Pro Wrestling Day last year, and I didn't realize how close they were to doing something pretty big. And it was one of those, just the deals fell through, and it's a shame, because I know, and you probably don't recall, but back when G4 had them actually on in the morning, like a weekday morning thing, and it was one of those kind of like old Saturday morning cartoons where they had an hour block, and there was this Kaiju Big Battel stuff, and then they had the bad anime G.I. Joe and Transformers stuff, I think, in there, and some other stuff, and it was just this weird cartoon block with the Kaiju, and I think they were on the verge of a toy deal, and it just everything attached to G4 just turned into, we were going to sell you off and get cops for your guns. So, bad situation. But yeah, definitely stuff like that, just to see that alternative. And Chikara, it was the stuff with Ring of Honor they were doing. I was like, well, maybe they'll get a deal with Sinclair, Yeah,
you can only hope.
That would be fantastic. So, what are we saying?
But yeah, I'm just super pumped for this week. You don't even know. I'm glowing inside.
All right. Well, we're flipped here. Wrestling Mayhem Show's up after us. But first, I want to get to our indie challenge for this week.
Yes,
and then
we had one this past week.
And then we'll be talking all WrestleMania for you guys on the live stream here.
Talk about the wrestling you care about. Who's getting buried and
buried.
Push and
chance and press conferences, and you won't see
crappy
press conferences with Chikara. I'll tell you that much. Like you did today.
I wish.
I
wish. Wouldn't it be just amazing?
I just want to see the ants come out there in suits and the masks, and that would be just perfect with me.
At least one of them is pretty well spoken. The other one kind of just screams.
Let's talk about a well-dressed indie wrestler.
A well-dressed indie wrestler, in a certain fashion, and this past.
I say in the fashion that counts.
Yes, this past week's indie challenge was none other than Facade, who Sorg knows very well from working with IWC and being around the Pittsburgh, Ohio area. So this was definitely a challenge for me in a sense. Getting to see this guy. I've never got to see Facade live. I've just heard amazing things, and I can attest to those amazing things. I think Facade is. I think people. You have the people that are sort of I'm going to be an indie wrestler, and I'm okay with being an indie wrestler. And I'm not saying that's wrong. That's fine, that people have different dreams. But I look at Facade, and I think of someone as, he has a unique look, but also a look to where it could be marketable. Mm-hmm. He has that marketable look. And we mentioned last week, the kids love him. He's just got that energy and that look and that style that really captivates the younger audience, which I know everyone's clamoring to get. And he's great, and I can definitely see sort of stuff you were talking about, Sorg, of how he's grown over the years as a wrestler. and how he's definitely picks his spots more and you know, definitely thinks different and he's really entertaining.
Yeah, and like I said, he definitely he gets a lot of criticism for being another one of the flippy guys. But again, I think that's come along. I mean, he definitely skews towards a flippy guy kind of match to a point, I think. But like I said, I think he's come along with it. And he's got a look and everything. I think he's improved in the places that matter. You know,
definitely.
I mean, I don't expect this guy to be a submission specialist or anything like that. Although he does have some cool moves. He does have some cool moves he's getting in there. So.
If you look closely at his wrestling, I don't think that's a person that doesn't respect the idea of psychology.
Oh, certainly.
And how to, you know, really work a match, you know. And yeah, he flies, but you know, when he flies, it matters and it works. And I think, I think too many times people, especially with indie wrestlers, they'll label them as just a flippy wrestler, like a high spot wrestler, and they won't look closely and see that this is the kind of person that when he wants to, he can tell a story.
What do you think of the kind of moves he does? Because he does a lot of, and we talked about this, I think I mentioned this in passing, he does a lot of stuff that's like, you know, the rope jump stuff that, you know, which really akins to, I feel, Sabu and the, it doesn't really always work all the time there, buddy, you know, kind of stuff.
Well, and I can definitely see that, but I think, in a sense, when it succeeds, it looks amazing. I can definitely see the Sabu influence. I also see a lot of like early Jeff Hardy influence.
Yeah.
Just from the fact
not as reckless looking.
No, but I remember I've been watching a bunch of old Attitude Era pay-per-views, as we mentioned before, and one of the ones I watched was the original tag team ladder match with the Hardys against Edge and Christian, and just the ability, the clear, like, I'm definitely going to try something different, and I'm not gonna, you know, and it's risky, but it works, and it gets people behind them, and I definitely see that within Facade. And, you know, I could see, and just with more refinement and then with more years and more matches, I feel like he's just someone that's just going to get better.
I love to see, again, I would just love to see the WWE marketing machine get this guy.
Yeah.
and just have fun with him. Because I think he's got the ideas, just seeing what he does on his own and everything. So, excellent. So who do we got for this next week, sir?
This week's challenge is somebody that I know you've seen a couple times before, somebody that I've definitely watched a lot through different wrestling promotion. He's breaking out. He's even been to one of the top two before, but he's a phenomenal wrestler, and that is Anthony Nese, or Tony Nese, depending on which company you see him in. I believe predominant out of, the New York area.
Yes.
He is definitely a mixed style of wrestler. You look at him and you expect, I think, one thing, and then you really get another. And he's definitely different. And he's been in companies like Dragon Gate USA, and he's breaking out. I know he's been in PWG as well. So he's definitely making waves, and he's one I believe you should definitely check out. But that is this week's challenge. And to participate in this challenge, you can go to youtube.com/Wrestling Mayhem Show. And check out the playlist for Anthony Nese that has been put together, featuring a bunch of his matches. There's, I believe, a promo in there as well. And you check it out, and you watch it, and you let us know what you think about Anthony Nese by either tweeting us at Mayhem Show or by emailing us at goodtimes@wrestlingmayhemshow.com. And if you email us your thoughts, we'll read them on the show. And we'll share them, and it'll be fun times, and we'll discuss indie wrestling. We'll share with the world and spread the word of more indie wrestlers out there. So that is this week's Indie Mayhem Challenge.
Awesome. Go check that out. Like I said, goodtimes@wrestlingmayhemshow.com, 412-206-WMS0. And just something I needed to double check here. And also, we're at WrestlingMayhemShow.com. You can find this show, the Indy Mayhem Show, on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Spreaker, on iHeartRadio of all places. Holy crap! We did have an email. I wanted to make sure I got this in here. We've had a kind of running joke, Eamon. I think you're aware of this, but our friends at RWA, the Renegade Wrestling Alliance, they have this event for March called March for Victory, and the joke came up last week from the guy, Alex in the chat room, who helps out with the graphic design for their stuff. So he made a quickie one, I think, last year, but it's like, we need to have cash for gold from the Wrestling is Renegade. So the only pro wrestling show where your ticket payment gets you real gold. Wrestling is Renegade presents Cash for Gold, starring Mike Lodi Bush and his amazing friends. Enjoy. There's something going on where he feels like Lodi reminds him of Mike Quackenbush.
That's an interesting comparison.
I'm gonna have to look at some of the RWA footage and see if you get that too. I don't know. Actually, I think it might be just the pictures he gets.
Is he starting to wear longer pants?
No. Unfortunately, very, very skimpy wrestling trunks. Yeah, kind of scary. Loves his signs. Takes forever to hand out the signs. But no, he's fun. So there you go. Thanks, Alex, for that and joining us here on the Indy Mayhem Show. I know he joins us usually in the later ones since, it's like 9 o'clock whenever we start usually, right? But this is usually 11 p.m. Eastern. You can join us at sorgatronmedia.com, WrestlingMayhemShow.com, and there's a link right up there, big link usually, to join us live, and you can ask your questions. Let us know your thoughts on Indy, anybody you think we should be talking to out there in the indie world. And just profess your love for indie wrestling. So until then, and once again, thanks Basic Sickness for the introduction. At Mayhem Show on Twitter, Wrestling Mayhem Show on Facebook, including the Facebook group, which is always hopping, and Google Plus. For Eamon, at Eamon2, please. I'm at Sorgatron, and make sure you're supporting that indie wrestling, even when you're watching WrestleMania. See you guys next week.
Never said I was a gangster or thug.